Hi, I'm Travis Smith. I'm from Hop Studios, a development company up in Vancouver. You want to introduce yourself?
Dylan Smith, TucsonSentinel.com, and Travis, even though he's basically coding away now, has had a long association with various journalism groups and knows a lot more about this than any of us about how to make your website work with the rest of the internet.
Yeah, someone asked me yesterday, what are you doing here? You're not really a publisher. I have been interested in publishing online journalism for a long time. The clients that I enjoy working with the most are the ones who are doing this sort of online publishing. So I'm here to learn, to take some of this back to the clients that I have. In addition, I also have a bit of a background in teaching. I like being able to share some of what I've learned and sort of distribute it and how it goes. So some of the things we wanted to talk about today were ways to make sure that your content spreads widely through search engine optimization and sharing tools. And I just wanted to throw some tools out there that you may or may not know about in sort of a live demo, exciting, interactive, sitting in the front of the room type of fashion. So,
when people start talking about SEO, a lot of eyes of journalists glaze over. SEO goes, Nico.
Yeah.
But really, the things that are good for search engines are good for people. Maybe we need to come up with a new friendly acronym about it being, something human friendly. Because what Google looks for, what Yahoo looks for, what all these people look, what these algorithms look for, is really how do you identify what good content is. And that comes through, structuring your site in the right way, using proper HTML markup. But that's not just good for Google. That's good if you have somebody who's using a screen reader because they don't see very well, and they want to have a tool that will read your site. If your site's marked up properly, it's going to be good for them.
Yeah. There have been a lot of changes in the way search engine optimization should be done over the years, or I should say, there have been a lot of changes in some of the ways that it's been done over the years. And the parts that have changed the most are the parts that really are not designed for people. It's the parts that are designed for computers that keep changing and that people keep trying to game and that people keep trying to manipulate. And those ones, as they get taken over by spammers or by people who are trying to exploit them, the search engines eventually, the search engine companies eventually write ways to sort of figure that out or get around it, or they de-emphasize those sorts of results. And the work that you do to make your site more people-friendly is the work that never goes out of style. The work that you did to improve the quality of your site for people 5 years ago is still going to help you in the search engines today. Whereas work that you might have done to keyword all of your stories might be less valuable now than it was 10 years ago when keywords are sort of all the rage. So a couple things that I want to show you. First, I just want to start with this interesting tool from Facebook. Facebook is not a search engine per se, but they have been getting more and more into search. You can do searches from the Facebook bar and have it search the web. But one thing I wanted to do was just throw in, Facebook has this debugger where it tells you things about your site. So I wanted to ask one of you for an example of an article from your sites, and we'll just call it up and put it in here. Somebody want to volunteer their site? Yes?
It's BrentwoodHomepage.com.
Homepage.com.
And pick any of them. Most of the ones at the top are going to be last night's football.
Okay.
Actually, school superintendent says, or go down there.
Okay. So you just grab the URL from a page, and you go to the Facebook. It's just called the Facebook Debugger. You can search for it, or that's the URL there. You're using Adbits?
Huh? I don't know what it is.
So,
I'm not a person.
so the first thing that it does is it'll tell you whether or not that URL is sort of the official URL that Facebook thinks it should be. Sometimes you can have a shortcut or a URL that redirects to something else. And you want to make sure that all the optimization that you do filters to sort of it's called a canonical URL. So you might have content that is available at shorter URLs for mobile devices or copy and paste into an email newsletter. Like, you want to make sure the canonical URL is right. And then it'll tell you right away things that should be fixed. Facebook likes it if you put meta tags in your page. Actually, let me back up a second. How many people here know what meta tags are? Yeah, just
Kind of.
kind of? Okay.
Paste it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. A meta tag is sort of like the information in a card catalog or in a phone book. It's information about other information. And in the head of any HTML page, if we just look at the source here, it's going to be messy. Don't worry, it's crazy stuff. But basically, if you look at the code that generated this web page, it's going to have the content of the page. But it's going to have these things at the top called meta tags. And there's an endless supply of things of ways that you can meta tag data. There's like, I can think of 50
core,
Yeah, I mean-
Open Graph, which is Facebook's, and it's probably the most important.
Yeah.
On every web page, there's stuff that you don't see. There's the head of the page that is telling the browser about the page and has the metadata. And then there's the body, which is actually what shows up in a browser and what people are looking at. And all the meta information, usually you can hide it other places too. And it's a little complex, but basically it's all in the head.
In a general sense, metadata is anything even as simple as this page is in English, which helps Google decide whether to bring it up for people who are searching on Google.friends.
Which is kind of, I see a lot of pages that are actually tagged as being in British English, even though they are American publishers, which is just one tiny little clue. It's probably 1/10 of a million% clue to Google. But yeah, make sure your site's tagged as being in U.S. English.
Yeah, Google uses all of these meta tags as little hints about how relevant it is. There are meta tags that are specific to Facebook. Facebook has made up their own thing called Open Graph. And if you want your stuff to show up really well when people are sharing it through Facebook, but also just the act of making sure your stuff is tagged properly for Facebook, it encourages a awareness of meta tags on your site that's going to help you. So Facebook wants you to make sure that you say, this is the URL of my page, this is the title of my page, this is the description, the summary of the article, and so forth. And so it would be nice if you provided these things. If you don't provide these things, Facebook is going to guess. And it does a pretty good job of guessing. They're smart programmers. So it guesses. It guesses that this is your URL. It guesses.
But except for the
you specified a type. OG title, so it guesses that this is the title. When someone shares it on Facebook, this is what the default title is going to be. What it will do is grab an image from that page. Which image did it grab? Possibly none of them, because when it fetched it, there would have been a different ad on the page. So this ad right here, I'll scroll up. This is what it grabbed as the thumbnail for your story.
Yeah, and it used to be it always would grab a picture, but ads are showing up a lot more, and I'm thinking, I don't know why.
You don't have your OG image tagged. This is the right image. Hey, Facebook.
How do you do that? Where do you go?
So Facebook will, I'll answer that, like 1 second. Facebook will grab something that looks like a thumbnail. So it'll tend to avoid banner ads because it's like, it's a banner ad. But it'll tend to grab things that are rectangular and it'll tend to grab one of the larger images on the page if you don't tell it what to do. So often if you just started running a big ad unit, and especially I have some clients who just started running it in the middle of their story, and then Facebook goes, oh yeah, that's got to be the image for this story, but it's not, it's an ad. So you just specify a tag in your header called OG image. When you're running WordPress, there's the default WordPress install. There's an option to choose an image for that. A featured image, yes. Featured image. If your WordPress is up to date and you're clean, will probably fill out that OG image tag. So even if you're not going to put that image in the story, if you want it to be like the thumbnail image, you can use that as a featured image.
So you can have your logo or...
Like I've got mine set up that if there is no photo with story, that it pulls in, not my logo, but I use a little signifier.
Is there another option for that? Because I actually tried that, interestingly, you talking about this, I actually tried that last night. I had one image that I did not want to be my featured image, and it was what it automatically pulled. So I went back and made a different image of featured image, and I went to post on Facebook, it kept pulling the original image.
That's why you
even
use
though
the
it's
debugger.
Yeah.
The debugger busts the cache that Facebook pulls. But when
Ah.
Facebook looks at something, they're not going to go back and look at that URL every
Okay.
time.
Yes.
No
So-
one has that capability, so they cache it. So you go to the debugger, run this, and it's going to look again.
So it'll fix it. So this
Yes.
is not just let me see what's wrong.
Right.
This is fixing
I
it.
have this thing,
This is
in my
grab-
toolbar, I use
I
it
did
5
not know
times a
Yeah,
day.
no, this is grab a fresh version. Facebook, go to my site, grab a fresh version, tell me if this page is set up right.
That is awesome.
So that's it.
So when you update
It'll
a
also-
headline, you know,
You'll also
change the
possibly
head.
clear the cache after like 24, 48 hours and like go and check again. But in some cases it won't. Because like the first time that Facebook goes and says, oh, someone's trying to share this story, what's the title, what's the image, how am I going to put it on Facebook? They only do that.
So as long as you specify all that stuff up front when you post it in WordPress.
Or any CMS.
Right.
Yeah.
Just WordPress being most common, so that's probably the one we talk about, even though neither of us is exactly a WordPress expert.
No.
Probably got way more than me.
I've played with it a little more recently, but I don't build it myself. Same thing here for the description. Again, I'm not sure exactly how your site might be set up. Often it uses the summary field from WordPress, or you might be able to mess with the code of your site to have a description field that is specific as a story description, or even specific to Facebook. The description is also what would get used frequently when there's a search result in Google. So if we look in Google, for this story, if you specify an actual description and there's a description meta tag on your site, Google will prefer to use that instead of what it calls a snippet. The snippet is based on the words that you search for. It looks through all the content of the page and it tries to put together like a Frankenstein bit of text that it thinks is going to be most relevant for the person searching. There are advantages and disadvantages to having a description meta tag, because if I'm doing a search for some search terms and the snippet underneath there echoes those search terms, I'm going to be like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So for more obscure, like a story that's not necessarily devoted to this topic, but it happens to have the words that you want, and then the snippet shows that it's a close match, in some cases that's better to try and get somebody to your site. On the other hand, this is not a full sentence. It might not carry how important or impressive your particular story is. If this was like a really long story, then first in a series, and the description would really carry some weight with searchers. It might be nicer to have a description there. It's always a good idea to put in a description. I'm just saying that as with everything in search engine optimization, there's not necessarily there are costs and benefits to everything that you do. So yeah, if you put in a description, then the description shows up here.
Will the description weighted a little bit higher, almost in sort of a keyword sense, that you made this the description, so search engines will rank it higher for the words that are in that description?
It's hard it's hard to say. The reason it's hard to say, first of all, Google doesn't share the recipe with anybody, but so many people do try to stuff the description with keywords and game it in a certain way that Google might say, oh, these people are doing, Google cares a lot about what appears on the page, and that's given a lot of priority. On the other hand, if someone is taking the time to say, that's what's most important, they might give it more weight. I've heard it said that it's given a decent amount of weight, but it's not the most important.
So the title is.
The title is very important.
The title being the headline?
The title being what you see up at the top, not the headline, but what you actually see at the top.
This is the headline. What you see up here on the tab, this is the title tag. And you can see that your title tag has added on Brentwood homepage to the end of the title there. So that's good, because it's giving when someone sees the results in Google, if this was a shorter headline, it would actually carry the whole website title tag. So it's like this one, yeah. This one is the title tag. So the title tag is another type of meta tag that carries information about the site. And the title tag doesn't have to exactly match the headline on the page. As you can see in this case, it actually might be nicer to have a shorter title that would appear nicely in not only in Google, but also This is a little long for Facebook, especially because it says on Brentwood homepage. You might not want it to say that on Brentwood homepage in what people are sharing on Facebook.
Because you can see it right below it. The context of it is there.
Right. So you can specify the Facebook title to not include on Brentwood homepage. And yeah, so that's kind of the basic information that Facebook grabs. If you're putting other types of information up there, especially things like any type of review, restaurant review, movie review, book review, Facebook has a whole bunch more open graph OG tags that help you specify what property that is, and again help people who are looking for this stuff. Yeah, for these locations.
On headlines, does the rule of keep it short still hold up for good SEO? I mean, it makes for a better, more readable headline for a human being, but is it still important to keep that as a
Absolutely.
concise?
Absolutely. In fact, there's the title tag is very, very important, and the words at the beginning of the title tag are most important, the first couple words. So, it really, a headline that's written with the most important word at the beginning is going to rank better on Google than one that had it at the end, if all other factors are equal. Title tags are particularly weighted to being short, and the first words are very, very important.
On my site, we do a thing where if we have a label on the story that rides above the headline, so a way to get more keywords on that page, we actually put that on the end of the title tag. So you like the headline, and then, say, what's the school district, so it would be, school superintendent, blah, 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 Tucson Unified School District. So that would be writing in the title tag, and to give those keywords a little bit more juice.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the title tag is something that should be different for Facebook from Google. In other words, you should make sure that what you're coding to be the title on Facebook is just a human readable headline without additional keywording.
So I should probably take that out of my
out of your OG title tag, but not out of the title tag. Again, what you're doing for Facebook is sort of putting information in there so that when people share it and pass it around, it looks as nice as possible and has the right image and that sort of thing.
Maybe.
Well, I was just gonna say, could you say again what the difference, what should her title be for that? Would it be school superintendent, or would it be something more about rezoning in the town?
Rezoning is the,
You're looking for a search term that you think people are gonna be looking for.
Yeah, for this, I would say, rezoning will be discussed next year, says
2014.
Will be discussed in 2014, says school superintendent. Rezoning is the first thing, get it first in the headline. That's what I would say the Facebook headline should be, and that's actually a pretty decent headline too. And then for Google, the title might be rezoning whatever, comma politics, or comma, school board, Brentwood homepage. So that would get a couple more keywords in the title.
Most of you guys are pretty savvy about this, but I'll just briefly touch on it. Back when my daily days, I went through a big training period with the copy desk to get them to write better online headlines. Because print headlines are always within the context of that page. And, there's probably a nice big photo, and you can put some headline fun and a couple of words. It just makes no sense outside of it.
Yeah.
So when you're writing a headline, always make sure that you are thinking about the context in which it is being seen. So for that, what's going in your title tag is going to be the Google result, which has no context other than what that person has searched for. So tell them what they're going to get and make them interested enough in the, convey information with it. Don't just try and tease in that print sense. Tell them what they're going to get.
right, that was probably one of my best takeaways yesterday. It was the whole discussion about headlines.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And now that I'm not
It's a big
writing
shift.
most of them, and I don't, it'll be later today, and I'll say, oh,
Well, would for this one, not to keep picking on your story, but
No, it's fine.
would the superintendent, would that person's name be a known name? Is that a headline
Yes.
name?
Yeah, it should have something about rezoning Looney. Yeah, and WCS, or Williamson County Schools.
Yeah, you use
It
those
would have
things
been a lot
that
stronger.
people are going to search for and recognize. Because especially when you get into longer words, again, that's just kind of your
Right, I mean, I agree, totally.
Yeah, between 7 and 15 words, put a date in the future, put question words in your headline.
Anything with a number, 7 whatever, Those are-
Numbers work well.
I hate those.
Dates in the past actually have a negative effect. Dates in the future have a positive effect.
Okay, so that was, yes.
Yeah, again, every time you change a story, just go hit the debugger. And that'll just update it. If you make it just like, part of what your brain does and your hand moves, and you click that link and boom, you paste it in, you update. If you change, the lead, you change the headline, just run it through that, and then you won't even have to discover that you're still sharing something old on Facebook.
Any more questions about that? A big thing that Google has started taking into account for rankings and so forth is actually the speed of your site, and some people even say like how good your HTML code is. Broken HTML can actually Google will still understand your page and pull the content out of it, but it will rank you down for not being as authoritative and professional and so forth. It's just another signal, like another scent that it uses to decide, should I bring back this page on top or that page on top? Well, this one seems to have been coded more correctly.
Somebody did a better job, so
Yeah.
they probably
Yeah.
did a better job with the information.
Yeah.
If your code is kind of, if you don't have your headline on the page in an H1 element, they're probably going to knock you if it's stuck in something weird on an article page or something. How it's in an H2, they're going to look at it and be like, well, they don't quite know what they're doing, basically.
And again, one of the things that encourages people to use your site is your site fast enough, both in terms of like actual statistical numbers, how many seconds does it take to load, but also just in terms of how fast is it seen, like how long does it take for people to feel like they can start reading or feel like your site is responding. So this site, GT Metrics, combines a bunch of different online tools that measure your site's performance. And again, I'm just going to ask for someone
Let's
to,
pick on somebody else.
yeah. Someone else want to volunteer their site? Yes.
myedmondsnews.com.
Sorry.
myedmonds, EDMONDS, news.com.
Too long.
I did Hop Studios before this session and decided not to share. It was about the cobbler.
Exactly.
Yep, there it is.
Is it bad that it's taking so long?
No, the analysis process actually takes quite a bit.
So tell us about the site of it.
Okay, so there are two tools. One is provided by Google, it's called PageSpeed, and one is provided by Yahoo, it's called YSlow. And they're both these online tools. You can go to each of these tools individually and run your site, and it'll give you a nice report. Or you can go to GT Metrics, and it gives you sort of both grades together and does a nice job of it. I like their tools. I actually only discovered this in the past couple of weeks. Before that, I was just
That's
using it. Yeah.
Well, I'm learning something.
So, these grades are certainly not bad. Most sites don't get up into the A range unless you're like Amazon or whatever. And the recommendations that it gives you, some of them are actually impossible for you because you're not on a site that can do all of the things that it says are best for like absolutely optimal performance. But without going,
So can we do this for other sites,
yes,
like the Tennessean that is horrendously slow these days?
yeah, that would be, yeah, let's actually.
And now, they're not gonna they, I'll do this.
Good. That's
It's just Tennessean.com.
and oh,
Get rid of that.
that was a Tennessee. Okay, while that's running. So some of these, however, are going to be fairly clear. Optimize images, okay? So it gives you a grade that is low because it says that a lot of the images on your site could be reduced by a whole heck of a lot. Advertisements on your site that are running through street production, probably Broad Street.
Broad Street.
Yeah. These advertisers have sent you images and you put them up. If you optimize these images before you post them, they're going to be a lot smaller to download. So people from your site can have a much faster experience. And that's something you can do just as part of your production process in just a quick second.
Can you explain how you do that? What do you do that?
Absolutely.
We've got a cool tool for that.
I was just about to look for mine. What's your tool called?
It's called Image Optum.
That's what I was going to look for. Image Optum.
I don't do it near enough.
Okay, so basically there's a program for Mac called Image Optum, and literally all you do is you drag any image into Image Optum, and what it does is an image might have, again, its own set of metadata about like what the copyright or when it was taken or previous versions of it or color schemes and things. And Image Optum rips out anything it can possibly get rid of without losing any quality of the image. It doesn't compress it at all. Some image optimizers will actually compress the image, which is another way to sort of save download time. But Image Optum, what it does is you just drag an image into it, and it optimizes it, and then resaves it. So if you have like a really huge directory of all of your ads, just drag them all, throw them in here, you're done. It's that easy. And like this says, you're going to save hundreds of K for every download on your site. So you save your bandwidth. So Image Optum.
So it's not only good for your users and them getting a better experience, but you are saving your server from having to keep splitting this out.
Yeah.
And is that a good point to mention?
Yeah, I was going to, come up with that.
And if you really want to save your server, sign up for Cloudflare. It is a free
What?
Cloudflare.
Wow.
It is a free CDN, a content delivery network, and for anybody who's doing stuff at the level that all of us are doing, it's free. And what it's going to do is, when a piece of content is requested from your site, like an image, you can set it up to cache your JavaScript and your CSS, and it's going to put that on other servers around the world. So that only gets pulled once from your server, and then it probably is on a much better server, faster, closer to somebody if they're somewhere else, not right down the street from where you are. And it's also got some really good protection against denial of service attacks. It's going to identify and intercept people before they ever touch your server, and just try and stamp on the buggers, from Pakistan and China, and we're trying to just hitting sites all over the scripts that are running. It puts the damper on that quite a bit. What it doesn't do is it does not cache your HTML. So that if your page changes, you're not still serving up the whole page from it. It doesn't cache like that. It just caches files rather than the file.
Yeah. I've only looked at this from him, and I haven't tried it yet, but having looked at their service and what they offer, again, for most of your sites, it's going to be something that probably does do a good job of speeding up the way that your content is delivered.
Well, when I was redesigning the Lion Publishers site and doing some work on that, you want to turn it off, so you make sure your CSS doesn't get cached in it, so you turn off Cloudflare. And a couple of our people were looking at it, and they're like, "Oh, it's so slow. Everything's loading like molasses." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're just working out the bugs." And then I went just hit the switch, one button to turn it back on, and I'm like, "I'll go with that." Wow, now it's boom, it's loading. And we're still pulling in some really heavy, some large images that optimize those things. So we can probably do that.
So are you using the free version or?
Yeah. And I, but both on Lion Publishers and on my own site, use that. And every time I do some work for somebody, I basically just sign them up for this, because you can be on a much smaller server plan with all the bandwidth that this thing is going to save. For me, on my own website, it saves me about 60% of my bandwidth, because so much of what I do is images. And if I'm serving up some nice big images with a slideshow of 20 of them, that only gets hit, once for 24 hours, and then it's going to be being served up on somebody else's server.
What are the advantages of paying for it, or what do you get?
They give you even faster service, some more support if you need support, and a lot more protection from DDoS attacks if you are in a site that people are really trying to hit. I was, the reason I actually discovered this a couple of years ago was I was getting just slammed by scripts, from overseas who were just, somehow my site showed up on one of those lists that goes around. Here's decided to try and break into. And, they never got in, but just when we're getting, tens of thousands of requests from these botnets, we're just constantly taking that. Now it doesn't. Now they don't even touch my server. Cloudflare just makes them go away.
Okay.
So that's not a social issue so much, except in that it makes your site better for your users because it's going to load up that much.
Okay. I don't know how much more time we have.
We're having to address quite a bit.
The next thing I want to show you is a thing called RSS graffiti. Yeah, okay, great. So RSS graffiti. How many of you are posting articles and then having those be sent automatically to Facebook or to Twitter? Yeah.
You mean like the Hootsuite or something?
Right. Hootsuite is one way to do it.
Okay.
What are some of the other ways we do it?
Deliver it.
Just
Deliver it.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I forgot the name of it, sorry.
It's okay. I forgot the name of RSS graffiti for a while.
Twitter feeds, I think it's called. Twitter.
Yeah, that's the one that, no, you should stop using Twitter. Yeah. No,
No, I believe you.
some of my clients use it. It is slow, very hard to customize at this point. It was one of the first ones to make this happen, to go from an RSS feed into Twitter or into Facebook. But at this point, it's kind of it feels kind of untended to me, and I worry about its longevity. Yeah. So what I discovered as an alternative to that is this one called RSS Graffiti, which is it's an app that's built on top of the Facebook platform, and it has really excellent customization of how you can take a feed from your site, an RSS feed, and then make the items in that feed show up in your Facebook timeline, and it gives you huge amounts of options in terms of like whether you want the headline to be a certain length or always trimmed to a certain number of characters, whether you want the description to show up beside the photo or sort of be above, so it's more like a comment, how often you want it to do, like is there a certain maximum number you want in a certain period, is there to have a certain special keyword in order for it to show up. I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing because there's a whole bunch of options. And again, it's free for most of what you would want to do. It's free. The premium plan is more about if you have really significant amounts of content, or if you want customer service from them. I had a bug that I had to track down, and so I bought their service for a month, had them help me with it, and canceled the premium level where I'd actually responded to customer service and then went back to free. So you can totally do that.
Is this just for Facebook, or can you do Twitter and?
This one is just for Facebook.
That's just for Facebook,
Yeah.
okay.
Twitter makes it harder, I find, to do that sort of automated stuff. Hootsuite is one way to do it.
And that's why we use it, because we send everything out to both places at the same time.
I definitely see the advantage in having one tool to send to both places. Having to have one tool to send stuff to Twitter and the other one to send it to Facebook is sort of additional overhead and additional things that might break. So it makes sense for me to use Hootsuite. Are you paying for a Hootsuite package?
I think we,
Yeah, they give away less for free. Their tool is also has more sort of on top. How many people here know what Hootsuite is? Yeah, well, they're Vancouver company.
If this then that. Have you used if this then that?
Yeah.
I use them to send a lot of text messages to me about stuff that's happening on my site.
Yeah.
Triggers.
Totally.
Just great little
Totally great tool. I use it more for gathering information. If this then that is a tool that is sort of like Lego for the internet. You can say when this search term shows up on Twitter, do this. Send me a text. Send me an email. Save a file to my Dropbox. For example, one of the recipes you can do is anytime I favorite a photo on Instagram, save a copy of that to Dropbox. So then you end up with this Dropbox folder of all your favorite images, and then you can use it for a screensaver. That's kind of a little more example. But terms of other things, you can tie it to RSS feeds, you can tie it to purchases, plane reservations, and just all sorts of things.
I have it send me a text when I get a email from certain PIOs that I really want to know about, so I don't miss it. Just as scrolling through, and as my email shows up on my phone, it kicks me in the pants if I get something from somebody that I really want to know about.
You can hook it to weather warnings. So if it's going to rain, if it's going to rain, send a text message or send an email.